Welcome back to another episode on the J.A.T side. I'm your host, Jalen Austin Taylor, and today is a very special episode. Number one, I'm joined by Dr. Nicholas Coombs here on the J.A.T side today for the start of a new series, Navigating the RIF, Stories from the Front Lines. Dr. Coombs works for the CDC at NIOSH, and he has a PhD, and he was part of the RIFs that occurred on April 1st. Thank you, Dr. Coombs, for taking the time to meet with me today. If there's anything you'd like to say before we begin, say.
I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for bringing me on.
Yes, sir. So the first question I have for you today, Dr. Coombs, is how long were you at CDC prior to being RIFed, and what inspired you to work at CDC?
Yeah, I was part of a fellowship that started in August of 2024. So I'm very new to the federal government. I actually moved to Atlanta to take this position from Montana. So I moved across the country for this role. And what inspired me to work for the CDC, I've been a scientist, public health scientist in a rural pocket of the United States for the last 10 years. And my desire was to maximize my capacity as a scientist. So what better than to go work at the top of the public health infrastructure, the CDC. So that was the initial purpose.
Yeah, so you basically just joined the CDC less than a year ago, and you moved from Montana to Atlanta. Wow. So that is something obviously I did not know prior to this interview, which makes this even more interesting, I think, not just for this interview, but also for the viewers. And this being a new recent transition, I'm sure this next question is going to mean a lot to you, but how has the RIF affected you, and what was your initial response to it?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen, it impacted me as much as it's impacted everyone in the federal government. Kind of completely upends you, displaces you in your career, with your financial livelihood is immediately threatened. And then there's an extra added layer of investing the time and resources to move across the country to take a job like this. I don't really have a safety net, and there's limited mobility that I have, being kind of in a new space and gaining familiarity here. So it's impacted me a great deal, in both emotionally and professionally and financially.
Um, Definitely, moving from Montana to Atlanta is definitely a far stretch, and I'm sure that was a big decision for you. And definitely, I can see how that has impacted you in many ways. And this is why I'm doing this series so that people are informed about the impacts that it's making on workers. And it's not just about the numbers, and it's not just about the government trying to make or save money, but it's about the impact that it's making on individual families and people like Dr. Coombs here. So, in your opinion, what is the most disheartening aspect of the RIFs?
That's a great question, Jalen. I think that there is a great deal of irony to the whole reasoning for why the RIFs were done in the first place. Um, I mean, the reduction in force actions were a result of trying to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the federal government. And I think it's well known that there are a lot of things that could be improved upon in our federal governing bodies. And nobody knows that more than people who work for the federal government. There are a lot of people who are on the inside who have the passion and the know-how in understanding how some of those things need to be repaired. The greatest disheartening component of the RIF was that there was no due process or evaluation to figure out how we can improve the efficiency and effectiveness. There was just an indiscriminate swipe across thousands of personnel and, by extension, a lot of programs. And when you do something like that, it causes this rift that you're taking away what you perceive is inefficient, but you're also removing things that are working and a lot of opportunities to improve those things. So by doing the RIF to improve the federal government, you're kind of making the federal government less operational in its capacity. So I think that's the most disheartening thing, that it went against it went directly against the interests of the primary objective.
Yeah, you know, definitely the part about it not being the right way, because people get laid off from their jobs and it's happened before, but we've never seen something like this on such a mass scale with the federal government, and that's why it makes it even more surprising. Um, and the fact that, like you said, it was so abrupt. It didn't. You guys didn't have like a warning period. You guys kind of just were given a notice and saying, you know what, you're getting, basically cut from the federal government. Um, and I know, like I said, especially with your situation, moving from Montana to Atlanta, it can. I mean, I know it threw you off, like threw you for a whole spin, and I know that you know, a lot of people have been impacted by this new administration and all the different policies that are happening. But I think, in my opinion, the federal employees who have been, hit with these RIFs are probably the people who have been impacted the most, because your whole career is basically being put to the back burner by a lot of these decisions that the government is making without even thinking about the impact of them. And that kind of leads into my next question. But are you confident that you and other RIFT employees will be able to get your jobs back?
Joan, I don't, I'm a realist. I'm pretty pragmatic in my decision making in life. That's why I pursued science as an area of industry. Um, it's completely up in the air. I am not putting my eggs in that basket, which is a shame because I am say the word young, somewhat young. I'm 34, and I am newly, ingrained in getting a PhD and being a scientist. So, as an early career professional, I would say that myself and a lot of other individuals have kind of lost a bit of stock and confidence in being able to work for the federal government as a viable employment option, as a space that we can get as much work done as we can. So to answer your question plainly, no, I would say my confidence level is not incredibly high. However, to give a marker of uh, of of hope and aspiration to people, it also strengthens my resolve as a scientist. Doing these kinds of things has definitely promoted even more means to continue on with the work that I do, and a lot of other young scientists who are going to be around for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, hopefully. Uh, we want to continue to improve the health systems of our world, to improve public health. You don't go into public health to get rich and famous. You do it because you care about humanity. And this further increases that regard.
Yes, and thank you for um, your sacrifice, obviously going to such a field. And now with this uncertainty, a lot of people, I'm sure, are thinking about probably going to different fields, looking for new jobs and things of that nature. Because with life, a constant in life, I'm sure you know this. Obviously, having double the life experience that I have, I'm 17, so I'm sure you could imagine. And you already know that life throws curveballs, and you have to make the adjustment. Um, so right now, it's a lot of adjustments that are being made um, for the whole country, but also specifically for federal employees. And the final question I have for you today, Dr. Coombs, is what is one thing you want the public, obviously the people that you serve with your work, what is one thing that you want them to do in response to these risks?
Well, Jalen, I want to just take a moment to thank you for doing this. Sacrifice on my end is met with individuals like you who are promoting the voice and perspective. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing as well. Um, One thing that I would say to people on the back end, as a invisible public health scientist who is being negatively impacted, at a policy from the policies coming out, is to have regard for the fact that people who are in science are generally there to try to just make your life better, to try to gain knowledge for our world that is ever evolving. People do think everyone pursues a career path for different reasons. Sometimes it's based on you have financial security, you have a family, maybe there's a location that you're kind of held to with your family, with your community, and such. Um, Everyone has a lot of different reasons for why they go about pursuing a study or some profession. The vast majority of people who study public health really are people that are just trying to help the big picture of our world, to improve our social space, to improve our environment, to improve everything, to make this world more sustainable for all of us. I think that there should very well be an examination across the board, across everything that we do. But I would encourage people to examine all the good things that have happened in our human history because of what public health has done. Public health has improved the quality and the time of our lives. It's found medicine. It has found reducing disability and burden. It has improved the quality of life for people since the dawn of time. And that's something that needs to be regarded when you essentially attack those areas of industry. We're on your side. We're trying to help you. So that's what I believe everyone by saying.
Well, thank you, Dr. Coombs, for taking the time to share your experience with me today on the J.A.T side, and also sharing your experience with the viewers. I appreciate you and your time. And I hope everybody can take kind of, some empathy, knowing what these employees who I'm going to bring on are going to be sharing, and just having an open heart and ears to listen. And I know a lot of us, we're kind of in this position where we don't know what's coming next, but we kind of just have to come together and be strong as a community in order to be ready to do whatever we need to do in response to the things that are happening in the government. So, but that's going to conclude today's episode. And once again, big thank you to Dr. Coombs for joining me today. But until next time, I'm your host, Jalen Austin Taylor, and I'm out.